All right. Good evening, everyone. 6 o'clock Eastern Time from the law firm of Shihab Burke. I'm Sam Shihab, and with me is
Brian Burke. Hello, everybody.
Brian to my left. I'm to the right, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Um, our name is below us here.
Yeah.
You can see. We're here today to have a brief discussion about interesting topic that we were kind of chatting about earlier today. USCIS visa data analysis. Some numbers
Yeah.
to chat about what these numbers mean, what do they look like, uh, and share our view on it and get your view as well.
Yeah.
And move on beyond that to answer your questions as we do every week and hopefully give you some insight to some concerns you have on a topic or a matter that you're dealing with. So, with that, there has been some new data released recently, and there has been some old data that's been out there floating around that hasn't been
Yeah.
looked at carefully. And we're just trying to kind of throw them out there and share them and kind of pontificate and reflect. And
Yeah. There's interesting USCIS data, and we want to talk about it. So
yeah. So
let's,
let's start with the first one, Brian. You
yeah.
want to talk about uh,
Some H-1B
H1B
related
data?
data.
Yes.
So, people often come along and they'll ask us, what are the odds of my H-1B case being approved? You know, and obviously that's a very fact-specific question. But the next sort of place I would look is, hey, what is USCIS? What are their rates of approval on H-1B cases? And pretty darn good. It's really kind of interesting to look at the trends where H-1B visas have been and where they are now, and to ponder about where they're going. So, what I will do is I will bring up a slide about that. I'm going to just reconfigure things here a little bit, turn off our bar there, and there we are in the bottom still. And this is a little bit of information about H-1B approval rates from USCIS. For fiscal year 2023, out of 386,584 H-1Bs filed, 386,340 were approved. Now, this comes from the fiscal year 2023 report on H-1B visas from USCIS. And Sam, that number made my jaw drop. You know, what, a couple hundred H-1B denials in a year? Insane, right?
Are they reviewing these cases?
Well, it's sort of I mean, let's talk about how we got here. And I guess, there's ultimately some other data here that goes with this. By comparison, there's, prior fiscal years here. In fiscal year 2019, they have, approved, denied about 30,000 cases, which is a lot different. And I guess the big difference is back in, I think it was June of 2020, there was a decision by a court case, essentially, that resulted in a massive change of USCIS policy where USCIS lost a lot of their teeth to challenge, H-1B, to challenge a lot of things on H-1B visas. And in terms of me doing my job as a guy who review these things, does RFEs, it's kind of a paradise for the H-1B employer and H-1B worker right now. They are approving everything, you know?
So in 2022, there were 32,258 denials.
Yeah.
In 2023, there's 244.
Yeah. Well, so
Um,
one sort of, I don't know if I made it clear earlier, but this data here is basically some of these cases that are counting for. That's how 2021 can have more approvals than there are actual cases filed. They're counting the approvals of cases filed during the prior fiscal year here, right? So I don't really have a great answer for that for fiscal year 2022. What happened there, Sam? What do you think
yeah.
happened?
Uh, well, I have no idea, but all what I know is that in 2023, it is 1% of the 2022 denials.
Yeah. Well,
1%.
Well, here I do have another view of USCIS data. There's from another report, one of those periodic reports that USCIS does on H-1B approval ratings, and here we are. A different sort of view, but still reflecting very high H-1B approvals. This is from another report on the USCIS Data Hub, but 97%, 98%, 97, 91, pretty darn good.
84,
Yeah.
84%. That's quite pathetic.
Well, yeah. Well, I
No,
mean, look at the time. That was 2018. That was the prior administration. Absolutely, probably the worst of it. Um,
I mean, how can the same application? So this is was then, 1 out of 6 almost were getting denied
yeah,
in 2018,
yeah.
and 1 out of 40 or so are getting denied right now. I mean,
I will trust you on the on the accuracy of those numbers. But
well,
I,
98 is 1 out of 50.
yeah, yeah, there you go.
So 97 is, um, a little
I,
bit less.
I
So
guess
1 out of 45, something like that.
yeah, I guess this is sort of maybe it's fundamentally a political question for me though. How do you do it? I mean, one of our favorite topics of conversation, especially during that time, 20 fiscal year 2017, 2018, when things started getting bad, was the law hadn't changed. Basically, it really depended upon who was in the executive suite of USCIS making decisions as to how they want to process cases. Do you want to apply the law or policy with more force and with more gusto than than they were in the past? Essentially, do we want to change the way we interpret the law? That sort of thing. That's as close as they got to a major change. And I don't know. I found this data interesting because the bottom line is, I guess the data bears out that USCIS is really kind of approving H-1B cases at a massive high rate right now. It is just I'll put us back and I'll put us back side to side. It's just huge on that front.
Is
And
that good or bad, Brian?
well, I don't know. The government likes doing work, and earlier, I think was it earlier this year or was maybe late last year, we saw new proposed regulations for H-1B matters from USCIS.
Right. The new proposed regulations, we're talking about really copying some of the ideas from the Trump administration.
Yeah, some of them.
One of them, which is the most objected to, is narrowing down what a specialty occupation is
Yeah.
by definition, which is not consistent with the trend in the U.S. Um,
Of
in general of the profession. So, for example, in the U.S. today, people in the information technology industry, people with general engineering degrees, chemical engineering degrees, and other people with similar background could work in information technology and do work in the information technology
yeah,
field, whereas the new definition would require a degree in computer science, which is contrary to the market trend in the U.S.
yeah,
So that narrows down. So that makes it will make it very difficult. About 10 years ago or so, they've decided to no longer approve IT position for certain engineering position like civil engineering
yeah,
and industrial engineering,
yeah. They just
chemical
said those
engineering.
degrees aren't related. Yeah,
They're unrelated,
yeah.
which I think they are behind time on that now.
I mean,
Um,
the whole H-1B visa category is kind of behind the times in that front. I mean, it's a bit the whole professional specialty occupation professional sort of thing. I think is sort of far off the mark. I don't think employers really hire looking, for a degree, like they may have done so in the past. Essentially, you know.
they do. I think they look for degrees, but they look for related degrees. Not only that, but I think information technology has become so intertwined with and every other discipline. So you have people with doing programming in the pharmaceutical area, people with cross training in that area.
Yeah,
I was talking to a good friend of mine. His daughter was got an undergraduate nursing degree
hmm,
and moved on, got a master's degree in computer science.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's certain great niches in the field of technology where somebody like that could really fit in with the nursing knowledge. And I think that USCIS, as a general matter, has trouble sometimes, except even right now, accepting those occupations.
Or
Um,
understanding them, or understanding how they fit, or trying
yeah.
to apply them to their model.
Yeah. How can there be a job where it requires a degree in, a medical related field or a computer
Haha.
science
Yeah,
field? Yeah. They
exactly.
they have trouble wrapping their
Until
head
you go
around
to
that.
the doctor, and you find everything you do is, computerized, and all the way until you get back in your car and drive away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but the approvals in the H-1B, is that good or bad?
Good. Tell me how it sounds like you think there may be another answer here. Tell me how it's bad.
Um, well, I'd like approvals. I
Yeah.
like approvals, and I like a lot of approvals, but I like legitimate approval. When
Yeah.
I see it that you have filed 300,000 cases, okay, 340,000 cases, and denied 200,
Yeah.
there's a lot of legitimate people who are not being treated right. I think there's a lot of cases that probably may not
There
be,
are bad
should not have
actors
been,
actors
yeah,
getting their cases approved
should
now.
not have been approved a
Yeah.
little bit. I think he's gone a little overboard. I think a little bit more. I mean, if I see 4 or 5 thousand denials, I'll start feeling a little bit better that there's some review. But 200, come on, basically nobody's reviewing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Nobody's
mean,
looking at those cases.
yeah. Well, they don't have the
It
they don't
kind of
have the
it kind of
regulatory power
hurts.
to do it right now. But is the bottom line on that front. But
Oh, I don't believe it. I think there's just no review.
well, I think
I mean, how many RFEs do we have now on H-1Bs?
we don't get many
They
H-1B
don't exist. Yeah.
RFEs.
I
It's
mean, I don't like the extreme. I don't like 84 for deny approval rate, or 25% denial rate. That's
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah, well it was
Uh,
ridiculous. It was an
yeah,
awful time. I do recall. It was very stressful.
yeah, because
Uh,
you don't know what you're gonna get, and it's not logical, and it's
yeah,
illegal. A lot of
yeah,
these denials were illegal.
yeah,
But I don't want approvals when the person doesn't deserve to be approved. It's
yeah,
not good for this country.
yeah,
I mean, I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm an advocate for immigrants, but I know that good immigrants, or people who are qualified and have a solid qualification, will do well here. But people with questionable qualification shouldn't be approved.
yeah,
Yeah, that's my opinion. So 200 denials out of 340,000, that's insanity. I think they need to do their job. And again, I don't want them to deny cases that shouldn't be denied, but clearly there appears to me that certain cases that should not be approved are being approved right
yeah.
now.
Well, maybe I'm going to move on to the next sort of
Yeah,
data stack. Well,
yeah.
so last data has kind of been out there for a while. That's a report, maybe been out there, but relatively recently, released in the last week, is, and I'm going to put it on the screen right now, the H-1B registration data. I'm going to
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So, Sam, I realized that that we did our office a disservice. We never had our office pool about about how many H-1Bs.
This has been a busy year for us.
Yeah, I know.
Even the little things we're not doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll find another
Well,
library here soon.
the numbers are out there, so we can't have our pool, but the numbers are out there, and they're also on our screen for everybody to see. And well, there they are. Um, this is the bottom row is put it in bold, made it nice and big for everybody to see. Is the H-1B registration data for fiscal year 2025? And I guess, Sam, everything is kind of as expected in my estimation. Due to the change to the beneficiary individual centric registration process, less total registrations, way less multiple filers, only 47,000 of them, and that's really kind of it in my book. Um, but I guess, Sam, maybe the one we were talking about earlier was maybe the most interesting column here is the column on the far right. Selected registrations, 120,000. This is the lowest in the last 5 years. What do you think of that number? The lower actual, the lower, the lower.
Actually, it's a good number. I think it's in line with 2023.
Yeah,
It's in line with 2021. 2023, they had 165,000 duplicates and still selected only 127. Now I'm trying to remember 2023. We've had second registration,
I
so we
think we
might
had a
have a
second.
second registration this
Yeah,
year.
I mean, because this is that's what the number's about. I mean, you hit it nail on the head. Is are we going to have a second registration? So they're cut off from our chart here, but that asterisk for on the 120,000 number, I believe, is USCIS saying, yeah, we think that there's going to be a greater follow through on H-1B actual filings this year, and that's why we selected 120,000 people for 85,000 visas. So I guess it remains to be seen, but yeah,
With the for me the glaring uh, number, Brian,
sure,
is the difference between 2023 and 2025. If you look at the total registrants,
yeah,
483 versus 479.
huh,
Fine, fine.
yeah,
But look at the drop in duplications from
yeah,
165 down to 47,000.
sure,
To me, that is a net effective increase of about 100,000 applicants. I'm throwing away 2024 as a
yeah.
day, a year that is not.
A wild, raucous year full of
Yeah,
wacky results. Yeah,
but for me, the total number of applicant has effectively was increased by 100,000.
well, I mean,
And that's a 20%, 25% increase.
you're right because okay, you're saying the
The duplicates dropped by 120,000, give or take. So there are 165,000 duplicates.
yeah. So I see what you're saying because I mean, essentially there are only 309,000, the column to the left of that, for 2023 unique registrations for that year. And now, yeah, you're right. It's more like yeah, over 100,000 more
309
people.
to 423. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, and what are the economic downs? I don't know. Are we in better economic times or worse economic times for 2023, Sam? I don't
Pandemic
know.
2023?
I don't know. I guess certainly this reflects some optimism on the H1B visas. People, I guess, does that reflect people thinking they have a better shot than Sam if you have more unique people?
It's still, I think it's the message I see because I'm looking at 2021 to 2025. I see 250,
Hmm
211, and then 100,000 jump between 2022 to 2023, and another 100,000 jump to 2025. Skip 2024 for a
hmm
moment. We don't know anything about that year, what happened there.
hmm
To me, that tells me that all the talk about we're lagging behind, we're not attracting the smartest and the greatest, other countries are more competitive than ours, everybody's going to Canada, Australia, blah, 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 is baloney.
Yeah. Well,
To
I mean,
me, to me, it says everybody still wants to come to
more
America.
and more people wanting to come effectively. So I guess what you're saying is this column here, this column here, starting with 241, 299, that's probably the most important one. This reflects the actual number of people that are interested, and it's going up. It's essentially doubled since 2020.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
increased
yeah,
significantly. And
more. Yeah.
don't tell me people are sick and tired. And also the second problem you have
hmm
is that is less of an incentive for our legislators to fix the broken system. If you're able to attract 423,000, that's sending a message that, I don't have to fix this immigration system. Let people suffer.
Yeah. If
I
people
mean,
are happy to
in,
just.
in a way, I would
Yeah.
like that number to start to go down a little bit for people to say, "Oh my goodness, look what have we dug ourselves into. We need to do something here to reverse this declining trend. That trend ain't declining, my
I'm
friend."
gonna argue with you. So you're saying, hey, there's almost a 500,000 people who are trying to get 85,000 visas. Our immigration system works. On the other side, though, there's going to be business interests that says, okay, we need because these is 423,000 unique registrations. It seems right. That's unique individuals. Um, and that's businesses saying we want those people, and they're going to point to that data and say we're not getting enough. We have an actual need for these people. Is a reason why we registered them. We wanted 423,000 people. All we got is
The, num-
85.
the
Give me
number is
give.
not that number is not need based. The number is interest based, Brian.
Okay.
But 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 moving on, 620 here. You got one more data for us.
One and a half, I think. Let's
Okay.
see. Oops, there we are. Oh, this one's a bit of a fun one. The EAD uh, um, processing period. So this is
1 million EADs backlogged in the
yeah.
pipeline.
This
1
is
million.
yeah. That's huge. I mean that number I guess doesn't mean that much to me. It means there's a ton of people applying for EADs, and so this column here, Sam. Some of the text is a little bit small, but is initial applications for EAD. That's a ton of new applications for EAD for sure, right? And that's all categories combined except for asylum, which is this column over here. But we're not looking at that. But I think the interesting thing for me is the processing time that are reflected here. So this line, the first line is cases pending for 60 or fewer days, 327,000, right? Second line here is cases pending for 61 to 90 days. It goes down a ton, 96 to 858,000. And if you're presuming that they keep on getting cases at a similar volume, it would suggest that they are actually resolving a bunch of cases in 60 to 90 days, right? And this next one down here, 91 to 121 days. The number goes down, suggests that they're resolving things relatively quickly. 121 to 179. Well, I guess you got a couple stragglers. The number here is the shocker. 423,446 EAD applications where people are waiting 180 days or more. I don't have a category breakdown on this, but I mean, what is that? I mean, the way we were sort of talking about this data, it seems like they're resolving a bunch of them really quickly, and then some of them, unlucky ones, just sort of drop back and get to them when they get gotten. And this is anecdotally, we have seen some very quick, about 60-day EAD approvals here in our office, and that's kind of that. What do you make of those processing times, Sam? That the massive 180-day plus is there.
I mean, the number is shocking. But they do the math on the filing fees. I mean, a lot of this for free probably,
Pending adjustment EADs, yeah.
and that's why they don't want to touch them now that there's a fee. But no, the fee doesn't apply for a lot of these people. It will continue to be for free
Yeah.
for pre April 1st adjustments.
Yeah,
So
and that drives up the filings for sure because everybody will file
basically,
one on a lark.
they're spending their resources on where the money is coming.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but I would be interested to see how much of those are more than 1 year. Of
Yeah.
course, they're not giving us this information.
Yeah. I guess one thing that's worth thinking about here is the 5-year EAD, the 5-year green card EAD. That might eventually drive these numbers down. I didn't have the time to go back and pull, but they've only been the 5-year EAD's only been in place since maybe around the end of last year, I think, right? So it'll be interesting to follow this number and see if it goes, see if they can decrease that backlog by giving out really big, long EADs. Stop the filings by giving longer EADs. Maybe.
And you have one more slide
Yes, I do.
on adjustments.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
A head scratcher. So every month, apparently by some law, USCIS is required to output data on adjustment of statuses. And these are approvals and denials of I-485s on a monthly basis. Right here, March 2024, 9,941 approvals, employment-based adjustment, 1,140 denials for a total decision of 11,000 and some change, resulting in a 10% denial rate, right? And the charts over here for February 2024, January 2024. So 9%, 8.1%. And I was just left sort of jaw on the ground over this data, Sam, saying, really? 10% denial rate of adjustment of status cases for employment? We don't see them. I'm not trying to put a feather in our cap or anything. We just don't see them.
No, we don't see them. I'm curious to see. I mean, these are employment based.
Yeah, and we had a couple ideas. One of them was duplicate filings. Somebody who files an I-485, they do quote unquote deny a duplicate filing if somebody if somebody has 2 pending I-485s. Great. We approved one. We're going to just deny this other one because it's rendered moot. So I think they'd probably chalk those up as denials. The only other one, your idea was simultaneously filed, maybe EB1A or EB2 national interest waivers somebody taking a swing at it and losing on the relatively simple I-485 because they lost on a complex I-140. But again, um, you don't see we don't see that many employment-based adjustment of status denials. And a frequent question is, well, what are the odds of a case getting denied? We don't. Again, everybody's case is different, but it's right there in the USCIS data about
1 in 10. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you ask me without looking at this data, what's the odds of an adjustment being denied? I'll tell you 1 in 50.
yeah. I mean,
You know,
me and Joe were talking this
I don't
data
think I
over.
remember seeing one denied substantively. I mean,
Yeah, that's
there was one or two denials in which USCIS error and which we were able to reverse
yeah,
because they
and
made
we,
mistakes. But
we've consulted on a couple of them, but even again, those were ridiculous USCIS errors. I can think of one that we were able to come that we heard of from the last couple of years. You may recall, Sam, a gentleman who I think the scenario was maybe about 15 years prior when he applied for his first visa. He handed in a resume that was not truthful, and they eventually gave him a visa, and then they got him on that scenario at the I-45 interview. That's the only one we
yes,
could think of, which was a substantive denial. Which
yeah,
honestly, we're still bitter
about
about that
the
one.
lie back at the embassy when he was very young, and
Yeah,
they went back and they uncovered it.
yeah, but
And he was so blindsided.
yeah, he should have fought that one.
Complete. Oh no, I don't think so. It's like 15, 20 years ago, and then the application was withdrawn, Brian.
Yeah.
There was an H-1B application that was withdrawn.
Oh,
Subsequently, got a different H-1B application that was approved and came here on an H-1B. So for him, he withdrew the case. The problem, of course, he had is that he was not represented by counsel. He went on his own,
and they
and
forced him
then
to
when the
sign.
officer gave him papers to sign, admitting, um, um, and I lost the light in my office as usual, admitting the mistake, he did not have counsel for him to argue that this is a immaterial,
Yeah,
not a material misrepresentation or not misrepresentation because it's not material.
yeah.
With that, unfortunately, he he
Well,
lost the adjustment.
I mean,
Back 627. We
yeah.
need to answer questions, Brian.
I will. I will say my
Yep.
final point on that, saying the fact
Yep.
that was what, like a year and a half ago, that gentleman consulted with us and
Yeah.
told his story, that we can remember that
Well,
so
yeah,
much.
it was heartbreaking
Well,
because we
yeah,
knew if there was counsel
yeah,
at that interview, we nobody has a crystal ball, but we feel strongly that we would have given him an absolute fighting chance.
yeah.
He was devastated. Yeah, but this is one out of thousands that we've done, and I have no recollection of another one that was denied. So this 10% is completely crazy.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
So, but well, let's maybe. Well, sorry. Let's perhaps to talk about the nature of the questions that we ask here,
yep.
the conversation we're having. So this is the time during our session we spend the back half hour, taking questions that people have been sending in during our the first half here, and giving them an answer. Um, Obviously, this is a live internet session, and by virtue of that, we clearly don't create an attorney-client relationship with you. We're only getting a snippet of information from you, and we're giving a snippet of an answer for you. Um, if you have any sort of, legal issue, legal concern about your immigration, because it's so important, we would encourage you to talk to an attorney of your choosing in a detailed conversation. There's so many great immigration attorneys out there who would love to talk to you, and that's that. Take your immigration seriously. Don't trust two guys on the internet. Well, internet. We're going to here to give it good information, but there's only so much we can do in this sort of venue. And I love it, Sam. I think people are very much engaged in our topic because we are seeing a lot of talk and commentary here about the data. And Peter Smith, who is back. Peter Smith, who I think is really kind of the inspiration for my desire to, over the weekend, start looking through USCIS data, because he says, "Hello, I'm back with more data regarding employment-based I-45 processing times. Median is 6.4 months. You can Google USCIS median processing time 2024. You should be able to find the data." I'm going to see this data, Peter. I'm still not going to believe it. I'm going to look it up right now. I'm going to do exactly what you said. USCIS median processing time 2024. I don't believe it. It does not reflect what Let me see. Historic processing times, case status online, USCIS. Maybe this is what he's seeing here. Oh, yep, here we are. I-45 application to 6.4. Application to register permanent residence or adjust status, employment-based adjustment applications, 2024. Well, that's median time, median time. It's not the mean, it's the median. Median, as I recall, mathematically, that's the midpoint in all the numbers of times that it would take. But that implies that they're getting cases done in less than 6.4 months, Sam, and I still don't believe it. Anybody getting an I-485 approved in what do you think of that number? 6.4 months as the median.
It's almost virtually difficult to even quantify, because the problem is with the priority date and cases being frozen for a long time.
Yeah,
It's really between the time the visa is available and the time the green card is being issued,
sure.
and and how much preparation they've done in advance. It's hard for me to kind of respond to it in a negative way, but I mean, if that's the data, that's the data.
So I don't think I will say I don't think the data is a lie, because it's government data and the government is usually honest with these things. It's pulled from a database somewhere, but I am not seeing it. I mean, Sam, even the scenario of people who have been long pending adjustment of status cases, Sam, those who have their priority dates become current again. I'm getting emails all the time saying, Brian, my priority date's been current again for 2 months, 3 months. When are they getting to me? It's just not something that.
So you believe that this number is not believable?
I believe that I don't believe it. I believe the source. I thank Peter for bringing it up, but I just can't find a way to get it. I can't find a way that how they can get the median number to that. It's it just doesn't align with the reality. But you're right, Sam. Maybe my information is totally skewed by virtue of the fact that we see a lot of people with in the India EB2 EB3 backlog, and those people. I mean, I guess it's possible to do that for we do EB1 A, B, and C, and it's possible for those people to get faster. I guess maybe everybody, the rest of the world is doing so great, and there's just that's that. I don't know. It's interesting data, and again, I thank Peter for putting it out there. I'm just I tend to believe most of the data I see on here, but I-120, I-129, petition for a non-immigrant worker, 2.5 months. Yeah, I believe that without premium processing, makes sense for me. But about here, Sam. Here's another one. I'm going to look up on this list. It's median processing time. I-824, 8.8 months. I don't know. Maybe
I-24, 8.4. Yeah, I believe it.
You believe that one?
Oh yeah. That in reality, that's how long it's taking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Median 8.4 months. How about I-130 petition? Family petition.
8.4 months, right? More than 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I-130. So I-130. They're saying 11.1 months on here, Sam. And I believe that one. That's kind of aligning what I see. But you're telling me you're getting calls of people from I haven't seen them
2 years.
Yeah.
But some of the problem with some of the cases, when the marriage occurred in a third world country that's not very well verifiable, then they send it to the consulate for confirmation, and then the consulate doesn't respond, and then they get backed up. That's some of the problems, is that the verification process in some places is very difficult. On the I-130s. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep on going here through the commentary here. From Pratik, 1 million Indians now waiting EB based employment backlog. EB1 143K. EB2 839K. EB3 277K. Dependents. And this is what the project sort of follow up here. Should USCIS also focus on H-1B registrations by country cap to reduce employment-based green card backlog? So put limitations on people coming from India, for example. I guess maybe what he's saying to stop that backlog being filled up. Is that what he's?
Well, he said that if you are taking H-1Bs from one country and then
Yeah,
only limit them to 7.5%,
yeah,
so the H-1Bs 80% coming from India,
yeah.
and then you're saying, wait a minute, only 7% you get green cards.
Hmm.
Does that make any sense?
No, that's no, it doesn't. Um, yeah, that's the bottom line. Bottom line there.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
That does not make sense.
yeah.
And then the conversation here from Patel, Mr. Patel, is saying 1 million Indians now waiting EB-based immigration backlog.
I'm curious. I have not seen data about principals independence, though. I'm curious as to where that data comes from. If it's available out there, or Project put it in the comments. I'd be curious to see where they're.
Well, it's not possible to be available. Well, I mean, if you're counting adjustment, but if you're talking about EB1 backlog, you don't know
Well,
how
see,
many are from the family members.
well, yeah, because I would question these numbers because I mean EB ones, right? EB, especially if you're talking about India, I would say that the EB2 and EB3 are more likely to have dependents with them because they've been in the United States for longer.
But
Uh,
most of them are born in the U.S.
yeah. Oh, this is true. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, but at least you want to do. I think a lot of people are using not a 2.5 multiplier, like a 1.9 or something
Yeah.
multiplier to kind of reflect. But whatever,
Yeah.
it's too long. A decade to wait for a green card, at the mercy of the employer. And I go back and say, you got to. I mean, if you don't have an entrepreneurial spirit in you, and you shouldn't feel bad if you don't. Not everybody wants to work for themselves. Not everybody wants to have sleepless night, worrying about payroll, right, or worrying about compliances and worrying about what's coming from the blind spot as they're
Yeah.
running a business. But if you do 5 6 years into your green card, you got to do the self-employment. We've helped so many people with that, and I get so many emails. We did it. We went interviewed. We got the green card. There was no issues.
Hmm.
Some people grew companies that had over 20 employees,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and some even substantially more. So this is something that you should always think about. Don't get hung up on that. I'm waiting for the green card. They gave you an out. They gave you a recipe. They gave you a way you can have accumulate wealth and accumulate, build a company and
Yeah.
build.
Once you get that green card pending, I guess there was a big gift in the form of COVID and the massive jump forward in the visa bulletin. Lots of people got to file perhaps years earlier than they might have.
Yeah,
Obviously, some people got green cards earlier than they might have as well. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And with the 5 year EAD, and I wonder whether if Trump becomes the next president, whether that 5 year EAD will continue
yeah,
for much longer. But with the 5 year EAD, that's such a flexibility,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's really nice to have, to give you that comfort and the cushion.
yeah.
Um, Next, just take next one, Brian.
So, a pretty good question from Ranyan. We have already applied for AOSAP. It's pending for 6 months. We need to travel urgently. Do we need to pay $535 for urgent AP appointment? Well, um, my interesting question. So, if somebody has a pending adjustment of status filed after that date in 2007, before April 1st, 2024, there's no filing fee for an advance parole. And I've never heard of anybody being charged a filing fee for the emergency advance parole. And that's that. But I guess we are kind of going into a new and interesting time where in the future they might be requesting filing fees for an emergency advance parole, perhaps, if people start requesting them. Something to think about. But I don't think you should be charged for a emergency AP. I will wish you luck. Make sure your documentation's good when you contact the USCIS, because they will ask for it if they like your explanation. You know. Gonna keep on going here. For Arindam. One question earlier. Here we are. I'm currently in EB2 with priority date of June 5th, 2015. My company's attorney is initiating EB1A petition filing for me. I have drafted and sent 5 reference letters. I like EB1A questions. I've used a template provided by my company attorney. However, they mention the letters need to be different, like it sounds like it came from different persons. And the question is, can you please help to prepare reference letters, or please advise the best way to prepare it? That's a great question. Well,
It is a good question.
yeah. So, Sam, so obviously Iron Dam has turned his hand, and he says, "Well, I'm drafting these letters on behalf of my colleagues." That's okay, right? I mean, of
Well,
course
it's
it is.
okay, but it's a problem a little bit because I mean, what you do is you draft an outline.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have when I um, was doing them extensively, um, there was 3 pieces of information I would provide. The first one is the intent. What we're trying to.
Mm,
I want to show this. I want to prove that this law requires that I am extraordinary in the field. You know, and then the um, and an explanation what the letter should be. It's equally as critical that the letter establish your credentials, your abilities, who you are, and why you're qualified to give
yeah.
this letter. Because not only because of your stature as an outstanding, amazing guy, and I will write
I'm a
how
smart
amazing he
person.
is,
I can recognize smart person. Do you know who's a smart person?
and
Iron
how
Dam. Yeah.
and why do you know? So 2 things you need to show: that you're really smart, and 2, you know about me,
Hmm.
how you know me, how do you know about my work, and number 3, your opinion.
Yeah.
So I write that basically the letter I draft to the uh, expert who's going to write the letter. It's a letter to make him feel good about himself,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
that's how you want to excite them
Yeah.
about writing a letter.
Yeah. Usually there's
Um,
going to be a paragraph somewhere in there that says, the person who you're asking to write their letter, they're a superstar. They're renowned in their field. They have degrees. They're
yeah.
great.
So
Yeah.
so if you're Brian is asking Brian to write me a letter, and I'm the applicant, I would write a letter to Brian. I would say, I know Brian wants to say a joke here. He's
No,
holding himself as
no.
hard as
I'm
he
waiting
can.
for you
I
to
would
heap
say,
praise upon me.
Brian, I'm contacting you because you are one of the top experts in the EB1 area,
Yeah.
and your work is second to none. Your accomplishments are incredible in the field. I've read about you so much, and I've encountered. And by the way, if you remember, we came across each other in this conference, in this conference, in this
Mhm.
conference, and we've talked about this. Or I was your student, I was your employee, whatever. And because of your amazing stature, now this guy is reading this letter. He's feeling really good about himself. So that's how you can get him excited to write the letter. So that's kind of a tactic you use. Then you move on to the second part, outlining what the letter should contain: credentials, how you know me, opinion about my work, concluding because I'm going to be extraordinary. So that's the second part. And then the third part is a sample. I just provide a sample or a guide. I can do a guide. Here you will write about yourself. Here you will notice that I've accomplished this work. I've accomplished this work. I've accomplished this work. That if you're familiar with it, you can talk about it. And this end of the sentence, you should be able to, if you're comfortable, to conclude I'm extraordinary in the field.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it. You don't use a template. It's a strategy that's
Yeah,
tested.
yeah. I mean, what matters most fundamentally is what. Okay, so you don't use a template, but how do you break yourself out of that? You have 5 letters drafted. They're all reading. I mean, I think the problem he's having is they all kind of sound the same.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't write letter for your friends because it doesn't work well. I mean, I don't. It's not my recommended practice. I mean, yes. I mean, they sign it, but I'd like to guide them in writing the letter.
Well. See, my take is though, if you ask if I mean you're asking your colleagues to take a bunch of time and write a letter on your behalf, don't you want to hand them something relatively easy for them to sign rather than making them do a bunch of work on your behalf?
They have to spend an evening
Oh yeah,
and put something together. I mean, you have to tell them, here's what you like about me. Here's where I am relevant to your opinion. So but then they take it and then they put it in their own word. You
oh
basically
yeah,
put them in the car and you put the car on autopilot and you pointed the autopilot in the right direction. Say, okay, all what you need to do is just guide this thing for me.
yeah.
But that guidance is really where the art is,
Well,
because it's going to be his words coming out of his mouth and his brain into the
yeah.
paper, and there becomes his work product rather than hand him and any renowned person typically with self-respect is not going to sign on something somebody else wrote,
Well,
to be
sure.
honest with
Well, they're going to. Well, at the very least, I mean, you give them something to work from, and you basically say, please make this your own. I mean, I think how do letters end up sounding the same when they're not written from somebody's personal
you. Yes.
perspective?
Yeah, exactly.
Basic, yeah.
Exactly.
If you have five different people writing letters on your behalf, they have five different people who know you in different ways. We'll give somebody an outline and perhaps a couple different types of styles of letters to work from, and basically say, well, come up but ultimately you have to be able to. If you know these people in different ways, you're ultimately going to end up with different letters. I think is the bottom line there. If the problem, I think the problem you might encounter is if you pick five people who you know from your one specific project, for example, you're going to get five very similar sort of letters. And that's why I guess
And
obviously.
the officer reads it, it's going to look like it's written by one
Yeah,
person.
and they will. I mean, I've been consulted on things like this before. If they say your letters look identical, they will call you out on things like
Right.
that.
And
Yeah.
not only that, but also, I mean, the truth of the matter is, unless you have an English upbringing, an English undergraduate degree, your command of the English language as a person of science, even if you're a homegrown in the U.S. and grew up here,
Oh
is
yeah.
not as wide. So
Yeah.
these letters, it's very difficult for them not to sound the same.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people would have trouble writing, the same letter, essentially the same letter from two different perspectives. You're being asked to write it from five different perspectives, essentially.
Yeah.
Rely upon your counsel on this. They can help you sort of, suggest, will give perspective. I mean, ultimately, Sam, when I'm working on these cases, I'm responsible for what goes in the out the door. And if I have a letter which I don't like, I can send it back and have suggest changes to it, and give good suggestions as to how to make it the heartbeat. Make it more of this person.
Relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more of an art than it is of a
It
science,
it,
really.
it is exactly an art. I mean, if you have a good case and the facts are there, you can make a good case. But I guess the classic thing, Sam, is I think it's something you'll say. It's you can't take a case from 0% to like 100%, but you can move a case with good work. You can move a case 10,
Few
15%.
marks on the
Yeah,
needle,
yeah.
but you cannot turn it from one direction to the other.
Yeah, I mean, I presume that Iron Dan's working on this case because there's an attorney out there who thinks he has a good case. But
Yeah.
I guess the other side, a poorly put together case can turn the
And the
needle
problem
the
is,
other
if you
way.
get a denial, it's very hard to reverse that, even if you
Yeah,
have a great
yeah,
application, a
yeah,
good case.
yeah.
All right, let's take the next
Yeah,
one.
yeah. From Irshad Khan. Hi. I applied for an EAD and AP renewal 4 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for the acknowledgement receipt. Do you know how long it's taking these days, or is there a way to reach out to USCIS? Thank you. I don't mean to laugh at Ishrad's
So,
plight, but I laugh at USCIS.
well, yeah. So here's one of the reasons. Here's one of the reasons I don't like electronic filing, because you cannot go to your checkbook and see if they catch the darn thing with a nice tracking number on the back of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whereas with an electronic filing, it's cashed right there. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
I will comment generally on the subject of receipt notices as of late. They are slow. For those who aren't aware, in the beginning of April, effective April, actually they did it in late March. Technically, I think the USCIS massively shook up their filing locations for a lot of things. Like H-1B petitions are being sent to places where they've never been sent before, or maybe haven't been sent for a long time. And there are new people doing these things. And there's been talk from the American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA. Basically, they are seeing more reports of erroneously rejected cases. But Sam, so there's that, and we're also seeing cases that are slower to get receipted by USCIS. I have a folder in my inbox where I get USCIS premium processing updates, right? And I'm going to find the latest receipt here. A I-907 received on 4/29, right? That would have been
7 days ago.
yeah, and it took them. And this is on last week. On Thursday 5/2, they issued the receipt email. That's slow. USCIS, when they change, what do we expect when they change? USCIS to screw up a bunch of stuff. It's the bottom line. So I guess I was going to make the suggestion for Earshot that you can't check your checking account to see where the check is cashed if they don't take checks for these filings. One can put in a notice not received inquiry with USCIS, the USCIS website, but don't hold your breath for them getting back to you on that relatively quickly. And, Sam, I guess this is why people sometimes often file duplicate filings, because USCIS, doesn't give them.
That might account for the 450,000 I-765 that are unadjudicated.
Yeah, people just throwing more at them because USCIS isn't giving good feedback. So this is something we were talking about in the office today. USCIS receipts are slow.
And if there's no filing fee check, you can't even track it.
Yeah. So going to keep on going here down through our list of questions to Raj Channel, who says, my priority date is March 15th, 2023. Do you think that will be current in October 2024? And he follows it up with a thanks in advance. Now, we had to do some head scratching here, and I'm going to cheat by going down and see if Raj Channel commented out. Very last message down here. EB2 Rest of the World with March 15th, 2003 priority date. EB2 Rest of the World. So let me pull up my visa bulletin here. Visa bulletin. I figure we're due for a new June visa bulletin pretty soon, which will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what we got here. So EB2 Rest of the World, and he's got a priority date of March 5th, 2023. So they're for Rest of the World. They're in January 2023 right now. That's not too shabby. You think that'll be current in October 2024? I think that's not such a crazy thing to happen. Bottom line is October's not that far away, and he's not that far away from current. He is 2 months off current. Yeah. Well, I'll cross your fingers and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're welcome in advance. So here we are. Sam, I feel like I'm monopolizing these.
No, you're doing a great job, Ryan.
Well, thank you.
Empire, any chance for family-based spillover to EB based on recent data from the Department of State? They are processing cases very slowly with 5 months to go in this fiscal year. Do you think family-based applicants have
grounds to sue DOS? Because I think it would be the 3rd to 4th year of visa wastage. So, Sam, I know what. Go ahead.
So, 2 parts. Is there spillover? Can you sue?
Yeah.
You sue for delays that are unreasonable. You don't sue because they're slow across the board. So it has to be specific to your case. You go to a judge and say they're slow, they're not doing their job. You lose. Yeah. You say that my case has been pending for a year and a half. Congress has suggested that 6 months is really the limit, and I followed up with them 10 times, and I have children who are going to be aging out, missing out on school, etc. then you may make a compelling case. So it's going to be, it's not about 3 to 4 year of wastage, and it's not about being slow that will win you a suit, because the government is the government. They're, you just, it's not, you can't do a class action lawsuit. This is almost like a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
You can do a class action lawsuit against the government. The uh, the second part of the question, can we go back to the first part, Brian? There was a
Yes,
second part of the
please.
question is about spillover.
Yeah.
Um, Brian, you look at the data. I last time we looked at data a while back,
So,
they were trending on not to waste
well,
family-based
Well,
grandparents.
for this presentation, Sam, I considered pulling that data, and the process of pulling it and getting any idea is
Painful.
so painful. And I always feel like I'm forgetting something. And there's always some nice, smart person in the comments who says, "Brian, what about XYZ?" These are
Yeah,
nightmare. But do I think it's possible? Yes. I mean, we are in here in fiscal year 2024, right?
but all
And
consulates are full speed.
I don't know.
Uh,
Well, but Sam, think of the visa availability this year for fiscal year 2024. We have 160. I think it's 161,000 available this year, and that means they wasted 20,000 family visas
but that's
last
a
year.
significant drop from the 140,000 that they wasted a couple years before.
Well, yeah, but
So I think
still,
20,000. I mean, yeah, I mean, it could be a 5 to 10,000 spillover. That's not unusual, but that's not much of a
well, I mean,
story, in my opinion.
people should be. I mean, family based folks should be irritated about this. And I know a guy, Sam. I know a guy who's in the United States on an H-1B visa, but 15 years ago or however long it was, 10 years ago, his mother, a U.S. citizen, also filed an I-130 on his behalf. And like right around when COVID hit, this gentleman, maybe a little bit after when COVID hit, this gentleman, well, he filed his priority date came up, his I-45 got filed, right? And then for a couple of years, the dates didn't move. He literally saw a couple fiscal years worth of the they weren't processing any family based cases, and he was here in the United States the entire time. And I was feeling bad for him because the government was saying, we're not giving out any of these family based visas. We're gonna have to push them all in the employment category. And when there were people in the United States, clearly they could have given those visas to USCIS. Wasn't the consulates were shut down? USCIS wasn't. Very very frustrating for that for that guy. Obviously, it's great for the employment-based folks, but all the family-based folks who saw losing years with their loved ones when the consulates were shut down on those cases too.
Well, it's not wasn't shut down because they had a choice, but
Yeah.
obviously, um, uh, you know, there's no urgency in the way they handle things. Certain parts of the world is incredibly backlogged, and we have to sue, as you and I know, to
Yeah, we
get
got a couple
cases
of those
through.
going right now. Yeah.
And when we sue, they get approved. I mean, nothing is guaranteed, but this is what we've seen.
Yeah.
They do get approved at the expense of somebody else who will fall behind. Let's take the next one, Brian.
Yeah, sort of another. Well, there's a comment here from Project said the Forbes website, and I don't remember what his topic was. Should USCIS focus on H-1B registrations by company? Maybe that's what the was from. He was saying that saying maybe they should consider focusing on country limitations on H-1Bs, I think was my interpretation. And maybe that was something that was suggested on the Forbes website. There's a lot of interesting guest bloggers on the Forbes website there who sometimes have interesting immigration takes. That's for sure. But
I mean, all I think, if there's a 1 million Indian, I think if there's 1 million person goes on a strike for a week, there was a movie about that many years ago.
I believe it.
But yeah, might send a message. The immigration, uh, the request for immigration reform day off. Everybody calls it day off. 1 million people call it day off, calling for immigration reform, or make it 2 days. That might get shut down half the country. Might get people's attention.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay, I got a question and two more here left, and just enough time to get them.
Sure.
So one from Empire here, another one for him.
If someone has two job offers and both filed the petition and got approved, if they worked for a company A, then to switch to company B after, Would the company B need to file a transfer from company A for the candidate, or they can just start working for company B as if they didn't work for company A? So, two companies were in the registration, two H-1Bs filed. Then he began working for one company. Can he just jump to the other company?
Well, I think
I
you
have
are.
an answer, but I think you think it's kind of could be argued both ways from your end.
I'd say your smart money is to file the change. Essentially, USCIS. Assuming this is assuming that Empire's talking H-1Bs here.
Yeah, we're assuming H-1Bs. I'm going to tell you, Brian, that's the only answer. There's no smart money. There's only one way to spend it.
Yeah.
There is no possibility if you work for one company. The other one is not a transfer.
Yep.
It's a cap filing, just like the other one. So you got
To
to
file
do a
H.
transfer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it's very possible that USCIS may not pick up on it. There's two I-94s
Yeah.
mailed. And they just say, okay, here's another I-94. I'm fine, but I just don't see how that's the proper way of doing it.
It's an
All what you
interesting.
need one. I'm sorry. All
No,
what
sorry.
you need is one smart viewer on an adjustment 10 years later to find it and
Yeah.
turn your life upside down.
It's an interesting question, Sam. I was assuming this is an H-1B scenario. Are we more likely to see multiple accepted H-1Bs filed on behalf of somebody in this?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
What do you think? You think USCIS will basically spill the beans and say, "Hey, we see you have another H-1B petition pending through Company B."
They have done that in the past,
Yeah,
not on any frequent basis at all.
yeah,
But which is it shocked me when I read the RFE and the indication is, yeah, there's another case pending. It's like, how can you tell this employer you just destroyed this kid?
yeah. I know exactly.
Um,
Now I don't have a job with Company B or Company A. Yeah,
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 right.
yeah,
So they just approve them. I guess they don't care.
yeah,
Two filing fees. Why are they complaining?
yeah. So maybe take one last question here, and we'll call this the end of it.
Sure, why not?
The last
Go
one
for
that's
it.
of substance here. I think that we kind of addressed the rest of them anyway. From Uranian, is Texas Service Center processing employment-based adjustment of status? Heard they are not anymore. Are stuck at TSC. Is there any way you can get them to transfer? Well, I guess my first level is if you're telling me your case is at the Texas Service Center, the Texas Service Center is processing employment-based cases. Can you get them to move your case, Sam?
Um, yes and no. I mean, not without great difficulty.
Yeah,
User is going to have to be a total pain or file a writ of mandamus, and that will be the basis of it. They're
yeah.
not processing any cases, so I'm going to have to wait forever.
Well, I mean, I
Of
guess the
course,
question is, what does stuck mean? Is your priority date current?
assuming that, of course,
Well,
because
yeah,
the part is not current, there's not much you can do about it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. If your case is stuck at the Texas Service Center, them not looking at your case, if you don't have a current priority date, it's a good thing. It means they're not going to issue you silly RFEs, trying to, that you could. All it takes is you miss it and they deny the case.
Yep.
They're not looking at your case, your priority date, it's not current. Fantastic, I guess.
Who cares, right?
Yeah. Wait,
There's
give
nothing you
me.
can do about it.
Yeah. But if your priority is current, that's when you start ringing the bell, banging the drum, and that includes a mandamus action if
Yeah.
the case has been sitting, too long.
Yep.
Yeah.
With
Well,
that, we end today's presentation. Thank you guys for listening to us. 6 o'clock next week, we'll do it again, answer your questions, and bring a topic of interest and share some of our thoughts. Until then, you guys have a fantastic rest of